In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how I got my track to around -7 LUFS. The whole game has gotten loud again. You need to keep up, get competitive, stick around so I can show you my techniques. Let's hop straight into it. Alright, so first and foremost, man, when it really comes to, your mixing and mastering process, what I'm going to be showing you today is really how to add your flavor onto your mix bus. Okay, if you are an amateur mixer, I would recommend utilizing the techniques I'm showing you, avoiding the limiter, and then going straight to a mastering service like LANDR. You can try them out for free. Check them out. You can use my coupon code for a nice fat discount. So first things first, we're obviously going to play the track a little bit. I really want you to pay attention to the fact that we are still dynamic, meaning we still have a really nice difference between loudest and softest. This is what creates that really nice kind of movement in our track. We want that. We don't want to overdo our tracks by simply pulling up a limiter 15 dB and hoping for the best, okay? So we're going to play the track and then we'll break it down.
Can I say I've changed, but I'm different. Call broski up for some blunts, yeah, let's twist it. Every time I see you smile, I know that you're not okay. Everything I felt, well, I'ma let it fade away. Every time we talk, it feels like I'm falling. Heard you calling out my name, but I'ma keep walking. I don't wanna talk, please don't let me down. Swear I fall apart when you're not around. Suffocating, yeah, I just wanna drown. Intoxicating, but I'll never let you down. I think I'm a vampire, I wake in nighttime. Don't wanna meet with you, let's say it's the right time. Talk to me, baby, you're not more fucking alright. Stop, wanna cuddle me, I'll see you in the next life.
Alright, so now that we've taken a listen to the track, let me kind of talk to you about, how you should approach the two different parts of the mix bus and mastering process, okay? Because this is one thing that most kind of loppy YouTubers are not going to give you. They're just going to say, slap a limit on there, make it loud, make it proud. Okay, look, so the way I've been mixing and the way I have learned from other mixers is that you always want to have your own personal touch on the mix bus. Now, what is the difference between the mix bus and then mastering? Okay, well, your mix bus is essentially what you're going to be listening through. Okay, I like to mix through a bit of compression while I'm mixing. I like to mix through a little bit of, potentially a little bit of mastering EQ, whatever. Those are the things that I like, right? That fit my room, that fit my taste. I'm going to be listening to that, and I want that printed onto my track, and so I'm mixing into that. I'm getting that flavor. Now, what do I put on my mix bus? SSL bus compressor, okay, standard, because I came up around engineers who were using SSLs. For me personally, that's the flavor that I wanted. I always wanted that kind of warmth, that lushness that the SSL bus compressor brings. Now, hopefully you saw the bus compressor in action while the track was playing. You can see it's doing about 2 to 3 dB, and as things get louder it does a little bit more, right? Maybe it's doing 1 dB on the bridge section, but it's dynamic, it's moving. Okay, so I want you to find a compressor that you like, time it in a little bit to where on the loudest parts it's doing all the compression that is needed, it's not over compressing, and then on the softest parts it's either not compressing or compressing just a little bit. Okay, this is going to allow you to further process your track without having to deal with the huge differences that tracks like this usually have with the kick drum. Okay, if you're having problems with your masters kind of clipping out at -14 LUFS, -13 LUFS, -12 LUFS, it's most likely because your dynamic range is too much. Okay, you need to get that crest factor fat, and the only way to do this is by having that initial compressor or clipper if you really want to. I personally like using compressors because they're more alive, they're more dynamic, I have more option to control. You want that going on. Now I'm going to show you the settings as well, so check them out right there. You can see that I'm using a really nice fat long attack time. It's still a fairly fast attack time, but for a mix bus 30 milliseconds is going to be nice. Ratio is always going to be around 4. I like the way the SSL reacts with 4. If you don't have an SSL mix bus, use whatever you like. Remember, you are trying to create your own flavor that fits your music. Okay, so once I've done that, I'm really listening while I'm doing this to am I squishing the track together where it's sounding nice and fat. It's not sounding as if the vocals here and the beats there, and what I mean. I wanted to smooth the track out. That's the first most important part of this. Okay, second to that, man, don't worry about the EQ. Okay, EQ I need to talk about in a different video. If you have flat speakers and a flat or headphones or something, go ahead, mess around with the master bus EQ. If not, I would highly recommend again you use a streaming, online AI based mastering service. It's gonna do the auto corrections for you. Okay, if you're not able to hear the exact differences, you're gonna just kind of murk up your track, right? So avoid the EQ. We're not gonna talk about that. But when it comes to flavor, okay, let's just get rid of all of these. We'll keep this up because this is part of what we're talking about. You know, we're gonna want to use a multiband compressor. This is something I learned from Ian Shep. I forget his name now. It's been so many years since I watched his videos, but he's a renowned mastering engineer. And you know, one thing I learned from him was, hey, you gotta treat that mid-range. Most tracks, not all tracks, are going to need a bit of mid-range treatment. Now, by default, I'm always going to put up the C4. Okay, this is a classic piece of software that's been around. It works. Master engineers are using them. Sure, there are cleaner options out there like the isotope, but this has a certain flavor. Again, it's my taste. I want to impart that on my mix, right? I want that mix to sound like me, right? So I'm going to use a C4, and what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to skim through using these two bands, a kind of zone where the busiest elements of the mix are going on, right? And I'm gonna find that in this case it was between 250 and around 3000 or 26, right? 2600 hertz. And I'm just gonna solo this out for you so you can hear that range. Can I say I've changed, but I'm good. Call Broski up for some blunts, yeah. Right, you can get an idea of what's going on. Now, why are we compressing this region? Well, what happens, especially with this type of music, right? This song is very much kind of treble and mid-range heavy. It's a kind of rockish song. It's got some guitars in it. It's got some screamo-ish type vocals, or higher pitched vocals, right? We want to treat that because what happens is on cell phones, things get a bit distorted. On smaller speakers, things get a bit distorted. It gets a bit busy. So you want to deal with that, okay? Obviously, if you have a track that's more bass heavy, you'll probably treat this a bit less. You might even decide that you need to treat the bass a little bit, right? Again, this is song specific, but make use of these techniques. So just pay attention to the overall level and then see when I bypass it, what happens to the level, right? So this is with it enabled. Can I say I've changed, but I'm good. Call Broski up for some blunts, yeah, let's twist it. Every time I see you smile, I know that you're not okay. Right, for those who have a trained eye and ear, you're going to see that this track is kind of tamed, right? The mid-range is kind of tamed. It's kind of existing in a spot. Sure, things get a bit louder. That's why we have this compressor. But things aren't kind of going crazy, right? Now, when I disable that, let's see what happens. Can I say I've changed, but I'm good. Call Broski up for some blunts, yeah, let's twist it. Every time I see you smile, I know that you're not okay. Right, it's kind of jumping out, right? And that's really going to... you're gonna hear that on smaller speakers. It's gonna be jumping out. It's not gonna sound as smooth. Now, this is also where I get that 3D depth. This is also where I get that vocal in the beat sound, right? I don't just get that from my mixing techniques. I also get that from my mix bus technique, right? Now, this is subtle, so I want you to listen. But listen to how when I bypass, the vocal sounds a bit detached from the overall mix, right? From the rest of the instruments in the mix. When I disable it, you'll hear that happen, right? It's very subtle. Again, if you've got good headphones, good speakers, you'll be able to hear it. If not, trust me on it, okay? Can I say I've changed, but I'm good. Call Broski up for some blunts, yeah, let's twist it. Every time I see you smile, I know that you're not okay. Everything I felt, well, I'ma let it fade away. Every time we talk, it feels like I'm falling. Heard you calling out my name, but I'ma keep walking. I don't wanna talk. So right, I'll just disable it completely. Can I say I've changed, but I'm good. Call Broski up for some blunts, yeah, let's twist it. It's very two-dimensional. Just listen again. Listen to that vocal and the way it fits into the beat when this is enabled. Can I say I've changed, but I'm good. Call Broski. Right, let me disable it. Can I say I've changed, but it's cool, but it's not dynamic. It's not adaptive, and this is what that multiband compressor does. Every time the vocal gets a bit loud, every time the guitar strums get a bit loud, it just does that 1 to 2 dB of compression. Okay, our range is set to -7.3. We're not compressing all the way there. Important. Start doing this on your mixes and just see how good it sounds. Okay, again, I add in the multiband compressor towards the end. Really, I'm not mixing into it. I'm generally just going to be mixing into the SSL mix bus compressor and the limiter as time goes on. Just so I can get a good level, good feel for the track. But, that's it. Simple as that, right? Mix bus compression, bit of multiband in the mid-range, okay? So far, so good. Now, let's hop over to this gold compressor, right? Now, again, saturation, very small adjustments that we are making. Again, you need to be in a mastering grade facility to hear these things. let me not say that, because people are getting great results on expensive headphones, right? Some headphones sound so damn good. I mean, there's a reason why the Focal headphones are like $5,000, right? Cool. So if you can hear that, great stuff. But what we really want to be talking about is the, secondary compressor that we're going to be adding onto our mix bus. Now, if you've seen a mastering desk in a professional studio, you'll know that there are usually several sets of compressors, different types of compressors, right? This is going to be your old school Neve mix bus compressor, right? Generally, these weren't used on the mix bus, but as time has gone on, people have really started to appreciate how much circuitry, was in these types of compressors. Okay, I'll pull one up on the screen so you can see one. All right. Beautiful compressors, but what I'm using this one for, I'm using it for two main reasons, right? Flavor, and then also a utility, right? Which is to basically just catch any loose peaks. So obviously earlier on, I talked about how this is not going to catch every little peak. This is going to be just kind of gluing that track back a bit more. Can you see now I've got glue on the SSL, bit of glue on the Neve. But with the Neve, I've got a really fast attack time. So I really need to be careful with how much I am compressing. So pay attention to this little red needle right here. When it moves to the left, we are compressing, okay? See on what elements it compresses, right? And then try to understand what I would have been thinking when I was setting this up.
Can I say I've changed, but I'm different. Call broski up for some blunts, yeah, let's twist it. Every time I see you smile, I know that you're not okay. Everything I felt, well, I'ma let it fade away. Every time we talk, it feels like I'm falling. Heard you calling out my name, but I'ma keep walking. I don't wanna talk, please don't let me down. Swear I fall apart when you're not around. Suffocating, yeah, I just wanna drown. Intoxicating.
Right, can you see how it only kicks in when we've got that kick and the bass hit at the same time? Now, why would I want that? Well, I don't want to overload the limiter, right? Again, most people are going to be overloading the limiter, putting too much work into the limiter. The limiter is going to have to catch too many peaks. It's going to be catching those peaks very fast, right? We don't want that, or in this case, very slow. But, we don't want to overwork the limiter, okay? And so I'm always going to be adding that safety compressor on there. Now, again, I said it's going to be doing two jobs. It's going to add flavor, right? Because it's kind of based on this transformer sounding fat boy old school compressor. It's giving our mix a certain vintage tone, which I wanted. And then, it's doing that compression. But during the time when it's not compressing, it's adding the flavor. So can you see how I'm selectively choosing different things to do the job? Okay, and then once I'm ready, I'm generally going to be gaining into the limiter. It's for a different video. I personally don't like to use just gain into the limiter. I like to use different plugins and stuff. But, that's really it. When I do this, I get great results. Let me just turn off the whole mastering chain for you, or most importantly, the three compressors, right? So I'll turn off the SSL real quick, and then we'll take a listen, right?
Can I say I've changed, but I'm different. Call broski up for some blunts, yeah, let's twist it. Every time I see you smile, I know that you're not okay. Everything I felt, well, I'ma let it fade away. Every time we talk, it feels like I'm falling. Heard you calling out my name, but I'ma keep walking. I don't wanna talk, please don't let me down.
We got the tone, we got the, limiting, but we don't have that dynamic lushness. We don't have that vibe. We don't have that character, right? So that's where all of this comes in. Let's turn all of these back on, right? SSL back on. Cool, good old analog, right? And then let's turn that on.
Can I say I've changed, but I'm different. Call broski up for some blunts, yeah, let's twist it.
Right, can you hear just how much saturation we get when the track gets too loud? Instead of us just clipping, we get a beautiful warmth, you know what I mean? We get kind of saturation via our technique, you know what I mean? It's not just some two-dimensional, turn the limiter up, right? Alright, so there you go, man, that's it. That's all I wanted to show you. Again, to just summarize, okay? We have a SSL mix bus compressor with a nice long attack, okay? That then runs into our mastering section, a little bit of EQ, that runs into our multiband compressor. That then runs into our really nice vintage mastering compressor, right? Mastering compressor, right? And then we limit our track. It's as simple as that. We get more warmth out of our song, and things sound a lot better, man. Things sound a lot more professional. Now, again, to emphasize, if you are not accustomed to minute changes in the track and really hearing a dB change or whatever change, trust it to an AI type of software. LANDR is going to do the job well. Check out the link below. Okay, test it out for free. Test what your masters sound like. LANDR is great for just listening to what your track would sound like, almost finalized. The better you get at hearing that, the more you're gonna, mix towards that. So, there you go. That's the best that I can do in this video. Hopefully you learned something. Go and apply these techniques to your tracks. Get high quality instrumentals. Record your vocals in high quality. Follow along. With all the products that we have, all the different videos we've done. We have so many resources, man. Check out the vocal recording course, vocal mixing course. All of the resources I provided are going to help you get these more organized, better sounding tracks. Okay, you're not finding these resources anywhere else. But yeah, man, have a great day. Keep mixing. I'll check you next time. Peace out.